Hey everyone, Sycra here, and welcome to another episode of Pointy Chins, where I take you through the good and bad and ugly of my journey to become a better artist. And in the previous episode, you may remember this image, where it's an image by Joe Madureira, and I was just entranced by this hair, the way it flows, and it has a lot of dynamic motion to it. And it also had this other thing going for it, which is this twisting. You see? The hair strands come around and they go like twisting up and then twist around. And I realized this didn't make much sense to me. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know, like, look at this strand, for instance. It looks very quick, right? Because there's this fast curve to it. But I didn't understand what was going on, how to do this. And so that was one thing that was in the back of my mind, that it felt like, okay, I need to understand this twisting stuff. And then I was looking through DeviantArt, and I came across this image by an artist called Uni, and it was, again, this twisting. Like, in this case, it's a torso being twisted. And I asked Flavia about it, and I asked her, like, well, what's going on? Do you understand this? And she's like, yeah, it's basically a box, and it's, twisted. She was trying to explain it to me, but I didn't understand. I still couldn't wrap my head around it. But I understood the idea of it being a box. It's like, sure, I mean, I can kind of even see the corners of this box, right? And she had me draw it out. Like, okay, so imagine this is a transparent box. Where would the corners be? And try as I might, I couldn't get this. And to be honest, I was fairly embarrassed because I felt like as an artist, I should be able to understand how a box works. So in my embarrassment, I guess I started drawing boxes and just thinking like, okay, well, yeah, okay, so here's a box in space and just some guy unrelated, but yeah, here's some boxes going around a circle and some more boxes, some boxes sort of falling, and this in like a question mark shape. But this is all sort of guessing and not exactly correct. And here I started doing this twisting thing, trying to understand, how is this working? How does a box twist? And it was really confusing to me. I realized that, oh, I had learned to see form in terms of things like a human head. I could sort of understand the form. I understood the skull shapes. But this was because I had drawn so many faces, and I actually couldn't figure out a basic box. And so I thought, well, this is definitely a problem I need to solve, or a condition I need to remedy. So I started here. And I thought, okay, before I start with a box, let me start with something much more simple that I thought I understood, like a piece of paper. Okay, let me just bend a piece of paper. So, okay, I put some markers on each corner. So here's a square, triangle, circle, and then X. And then I tried, okay, so how about we start by folding this? Okay, it's not perfect, but because this should actually be the same. It should be a mirror of this. If you understand what I mean, like that corner should be mirrored here. But anyway, okay, and now try taking this X as if you're pulling it. And what does that look like? And pull it some more. And this didn't feel, like none of these felt right. They all felt kind of off. And so I tried this one, put a bit more curve to it. And I also made sure I put a center line. Now the reason I put a center line is so I could do this. See, when it's curving, I can also have a line on the back. And I tried this, and it's like, yeah, I guess that feels a bit better, but still wrong somehow. I'm missing something. And here, especially, it's like, yeah, that's not quite right. And here as well, and here as well. Here I thought, yeah, I guess I guess that seems a bit right, but it still seemed wrong. And for someone who doesn't have a strong visual memory, this kind of stuff is really difficult because I can't just close my eyes and imagine how it would move in space, because when I close my eyes I just see nothing. But what I can do is look at something and ask myself, does that feel right? Does that feel right or wrong? And this felt like close, but not quite right. And I tried, okay, let's try a box twisting. And so instead of just having this square and triangle and circle and X, I had square 1 and square 2 and triangle 1 and 2, and I just duplicated each one and then connected them. So it's like, okay, I can understand it in this form, but now let's try doing the same thing, taking this side and twisting it up. Now this, of course, it's not going to be a rigid box. It's something that has some give to it. So it should twist, but I was completely lost. I tried, like, no, this isn't right, this isn't right. This is just crazy. This guy's, I guess, an expression of my frustration, because this was really hard. I couldn't figure it out. And so I thought, okay, forget it. Forget dealing with this stuff. These not cube, but what would you call it? Rectangular prism. Forget that, because I can't even do the piece of paper. So let me deal with a ribbon. So just a long strand. And I thought this also works for the Joe Mad hair drawing thing. As well, Flavia helped me a lot with explaining to me that just do a ribbon as well. So I owe most of this, almost all of this, to her, and then I would try and figure stuff out. So okay, I took this ribbon and I tried the same thing. So this one, sure, this makes sense, you know? And I'm going to do a tutorial on how to do this ribbon stuff at the end. But first I just want to walk you through my pain. And it's like, okay. And then I thought, so what if it twists? And here I couldn't get it, couldn't figure it out. Here again, couldn't figure it out, couldn't figure it out. Here I tried to do something more basic. And it's like, yeah, I guess that works. And the thing to keep in mind here is like, okay, so you have a square, and square connects to X, right? So then here you have a square, and square has to connect to X, and triangle has to connect to circle, and here triangle connects to circle, if you look at these corners. And so just a bunch of these ribbon shapes and trying to twist them and not feeling like I was understanding it. And see here, more frustration. And this was really, really difficult. I don't think I've had this much trouble with a concept since maybe animation school, when I was trying to understand things like weight and how to convey weight, or head rotations and stuff. It just felt like someone had put my brain in a vice and was tightening and tightening because it was just painful. And I was trying to do some more twists here and here. And this kind of stuff, it's easier because there's no twisting, right? It's just sort of a folding. But when I got to twisting, it just felt really difficult. This one's a bit better. And this one is okay. But again, this one's not twisted too much, and it's more of a fold. So here also, going back to the Joe Mad hair thing, I remember that the lines were a bit more diagonal and not just straight. So let's see here. You see on these strands, right? This is sort of coming at one direction, right? But these lines have some twist to them, and so they come out diagonally. And so that's what I was trying to do here, but still feeling like I don't understand it. So as usual, if you've watched my Pointy Chins, you know what's next. I have to keep doing it until I solve it. So here, trying to do a basic ribbon shape with some diagonals, like, okay, sure, maybe, but this twisting was still eluding me. Now here, it's getting much better. It's like, okay, something about this feels better, but then here it felt slightly off again, but closer, and still trying, you know, these folding of shapes. And I think it's a very good exercise. It was tremendously difficult, but it seemed like a worthy or worthwhile exercise. And here, again, going back to this three-dimensional shape, trying to twist it. Nope, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. This didn't feel right, and I just kept trying different variations and racking my brain over, okay, how does this work? You see here, trying to figure out, like, okay, so this center line comes around, it goes behind here, and then it connects there, and that's not how it connects. But at this time, it's just couldn't get it right. And this is like, yeah, something like this. I guess this feels more right. And this really is, when I said the good, bad, and ugly, this is the bad and the ugly of it. Something I would probably not want to share in terms of my own, I don't know, looking good, because I don't look good when I show this. Like, hey, you can draw all this realistic stuff and you can't even do a box. And I'm curious as to how many people could understand, basic forms. Because it's not as easy, or at least for me, it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. But then here, it's like, yeah, I'm starting to get a sense of it. And here, again, starting to get a feel for it. This is not good, but better. And this one seemed a little bit okay. And then here, it's like, a little bit off, but it's felt like it was going somewhere. Like, that's getting closer, and then this is getting closer, and tried to do some, I don't know what these are, some structures. Keeping in mind that hair thing again. And this, I was trying to break it down so I could think of these as this box was made up of various rectangular planes, and how would they move in space. But again, this isn't right. And here, still more painful stuff. So there's some figures here. Don't know if those are too important or interesting, but they're there. I'm much more interested in these boxes, and this one's like, okay, that's a bit better. That's closer. And then some more here. Now, here I think I felt like I was getting more of a handle on it. It's like, close. This seemed to work. This one felt a bit better. And this one too, it felt like, yes, this form is twisting. It's not quite right, but it's closer. And I can do a quick walkthrough of the different figures, because there's some figures, I don't know, Spider-Man dude. And I guess I did the figures just to maintain the ability to draw figures, because if you don't draw things, you don't get good at them, right? So if I didn't practice with figures, I would lose the ability to draw figures, and sure, I'd gain the boxes, but I'd lose my figure thing. So what you want to do is never do really one or the other, but rather do both. So I'm trying to do boxes and keep the figures going. So there's that. And here's some more figures, and more figures, whatever, and more frustration, because you can see the boxes are like, okay, more twisty things, not quite working. And here, this is a bit better. This is all wrong. This is a bit wrong. And this one, it's like, yeah, that's closer to it. That's closer to what's happening. More twistiness. Some experiment with trying to imagine this form if it was turning over and over again and twisted. And yeah, it just felt very painful. But putting in this marker shading, so I used a couple of different markers, one for the side plane and then one for the back plane and top plane, so that it would separate the planes. That helped a lot, but it was still very difficult. Now here, I think this is when I finally figured it out. So here, it's coming around like this. It's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And then that's twisting about right. And then this one's like, yeah, I feel like that's right. This twist feels like, yeah, that's what a ribbon would twist like. So cool. And then here what I had done is, because I wasn't doing this just by myself, I was trying to figure this out. And on the first day, when I think I got help from Flavia, I also asked my friend Bob Meatbag about it, and if he could solve this or show me how it's done. And he had some trouble with it too. So we were both working on our own, but on the same thing. And he had taken a toilet paper and was folding it. And so I tried to do that, and I tried this, and it's like, that doesn't look right. And I came up with this shape, and it was very hard to, like, that's the thing with drawing from life, is you often get things a lot more complicated, and sure, it's correct, but it's much harder to figure it out. And what's important, I think, is to be able to figure it out from memory, and then when you look at reference, you'll understand it better. So here I'm still not quite understanding what I'm seeing, how this is working. Like, oh, how does this fold? But here I tried this from imagination again, and this one is much stronger than this one. Like, this one felt strange and awkward, but this felt like, yeah, I think that's what's happening. You have this corner, and it comes around, twists like that, and then you get that. And you have this, and it comes around and twists like that. And you have this plane, and this felt much more right. And so I tried it on some different forms, and it was working much better. It's like, okay, good. This is working now. I'm starting to get it. And even though these things are very painful, what happens, or at least what happened with me, is every day that I did this, I felt like I didn't understand it. And almost like you're wasting your time because you don't understand it so much. It felt like such a strain on my brain. But then the next day, when I would try it, somehow I still didn't understand it, but it felt a bit easier, a bit close, a bit like I'm closer to understanding it. And what that is it's, I don't know how you want to call it, whether you want to call it the right side of the brain or just the unconscious. Let's just call it the unconscious. But it's the unconscious mind that's absorbing what you're seeing, and it's figuring it out so that your conscious mind isn't doing all the work. When you're conscious, you're doing all these exercises, but then when you go to sleep, it's your unconscious that's processing this, that's trying to make sense of everything that the conscious fed it in the day. And so the next day, when you revisit the same problem, you've got a bit of help. You've got, sure, your conscious mind trying to figure things out, but the unconscious is like, hey, I think I understand some things that you didn't. It's not like it's actually saying, hey, I think I understood some things that you didn't. I mean, it's not going to verbalize, but the idea is there, that it's easier each day. And this is why I hesitate to go to reference too soon, because I don't want to rob myself of that figuring out process. I've mentioned this in streams as well, how important it is to allow yourself to figure this out. So just some more stuff, whatever, some figures, and then this stuff of twisting. And here we go, just another page. This time I don't think I did any ribbons. Maybe I was tired of ribbons, but I just did some composition thingies because I figured, oh, I don't want to lose that either. And back to some markers. Now I got a couple, well, actually I had the orange, or I think it's actually a yellowish marker and a pink one, but it comes out looking more orange. Or maybe it is orange. Anyway, so I did that, and I wanted to twist a can. And it's like, yeah, I guess this looks sort of twisting. And then some gestures and some figures. So there's that. And this person is kneading this bread. And moving on. So some more figures. And yeah, darken some in for the silhouettes. And this, I don't know, it didn't feel great, but whatever. I learned something here with the sword coming at you and how it curves to indicate the perspective of it coming towards you. And some more dynamic stuff. This guy's pretty cool. It's like the Rocketeer. What else? This is some good motion. I wouldn't say the silhouette is very good, but the motion, the energy is sort of there. And this one too, I like the lines, I like how fast they are. And this has a bit of twist in the body as well. So I guess doing all these twisting things was starting to come into my figures. And that's something Flavia told me about as well, is that if I mastered this box or ribbon thing, it would carry over. And it did. So it's something that I feel very good about this thing. And the reason we're still in ribbons is because here we're still trying some ribbon stuff and twisting. And some more stuff. And pretty much this is it. But I'm going to show you now a brief tutorial on how I would handle drawing ribbons and some tips I could give you. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I would go about drawing ribbons now and what I would keep in mind. So the first thing is we start with our flat piece of paper, and I should put a dotted line for the center line, right? Going right through the center. Now, whenever you bend this, you want to pay attention to these corners, right? All these four corners and what happens to them. So let's say I take this, right? I'm going to keep this the same, but I'm going to take this part and I'm going to bend it over here, right? So this used to be like that, and I've taken this corner and I've brought it down here. So what's going to happen is you're going to get a line going like this, where this bends over. Now, let's say this part stayed, maybe it just moved to there, so I've got this. So now we've taken this and we've folded it, right? So where does this line go? Well, this line has become this line. So where does this line go, right? This line now connects to here. So something like that. Okay, but now what happens here? Now this is what I couldn't figure out. This is what I had a lot of trouble with, but it's really not that difficult. The way you think about it is like this. And this is what had eluded me for so long. Okay, let's say we have this line, right? We have this line. Okay, so that's this line. Now, we have another line. We have, let's say, a line right beside it. This line, okay? We have this line. So that's going to be going from this point, which would be right here, to this point, which would be right here. So let's connect that again as well. Okay, so we get something like that. Now let's keep going through and just doing that. So here's another line. Starts from here, goes to here. Let's connect it. And here's another line. And it goes from here and it comes to here. And we can put in also the center line. Let's say that's going to be right here. And that comes from the center here to the center here. So it connects like this. And then another line here. And that comes from here, connects to here. So do you see what's happening with all these? It's sort of describing the form just by putting these in. This point to this point, and then the last point we can do here. Oops, here. And that goes from here to here, which is what we already had, and we do this. Okay, so now I'm gonna make the center line a different color. Let's make it purple. So here was the center line, right? So now let's draw the center line on this object. And it was this line, so that's, I think it was this line, right? So we're gonna draw, it comes around here. Now, see this blue line? That is right here. So I'm gonna stop it here. And so it goes back here, but now it's hidden. And it's gonna come around here, like so. Okay, so what we end up with is a form that looks like this. If I outline it, we get this shape. And that's what it would look like as you bend this form and you fold it over. And pretty much that is the big secret to drawing ribbons. It's to be able to understand this and understand that, okay, let's say we do that dotted line. How does it look? Well, it's going to come around here, and then it's going to go behind and then come across like this. And this part is really, I think this is the biggest secret. It's that okay, you have to see this part as being sort of, it's not, how can I explain this? It's a plane of the paper that's not shown, but it's not actually a line. You see? Like this you would say is a line. This one is a line, this is a line, this is a line, this is a line. Even the center line feels like a line. But this area right here, this diagonal, is actually just formed from all these bending over at different rates. And then it creates this illusion. But this actually isn't a line on the page. If you were to see it, you know, you wouldn't see this line be represented here. So that was very important. Now, if you twist, it's roughly the same thing. If we imagine, like you've got this, and I'm going to connect this side from here, this corner, to this side, okay? I'm going to connect this to this side. Now, this part is not too difficult, right? It's like, okay, we get this. But now what happens here? Well, it's going to be like this. What's going to happen is something that looks like this. And you're going to get this center line. It's going to come around. And then it's going to come all the way to here, to this point, and turn and go like that. So what I used to do, or what I started doing at first, before I understood about all this, is I would put the center line here and then sort of bending down here, and then I wouldn't know what happens here. It's like, what goes on there? Well, that's not how you have to think of it. You have to think of it as like this line is going towards the edge and then curving down, just as this goes like that, and this one comes around and goes to there. Okay, so now when we bring in more of a 3D form, let's make it a box now. So let's do the same thing. We've got the same form, but now it's a box. So it's doing this. So this is now doing this. We have to ask, okay, so what's going to happen? And this is a strange twist, but what's going to happen here, right? Here, what happens? Well, what happens is, you'll notice I drew this as if it was see-through, right? So you have this corner and it comes around like this, then you have this corner and it comes around like this, and then you have this corner and that attaches to this somewhere, and this attaches to this somewhere, okay? So let's think about it. Okay, so we have this corner and it attaches to here, right? So this goes to here. Now where does this one go? What does that attach to? Well, that one, this corner attaches to here. So this is touching this purple side. And where is this on this side? Well, it's right here. So these two must connect. These two must connect. And that means these two must connect. Okay? So now we have a shape like this. So now what happens is you have this connecting to this, and then this connects like this, and this connects like that. So, okay, it gets really confusing here, because it makes sense in just a 2D view, but we can get a center line. So the center line comes around here, comes up, goes back here, and this connects through here like that to that, and then this in the back, it also has a center line that connects to this through like that. It's like, okay, so we have this form, and now this, I'm just going to shade it in, is turning, and it's bending like this, comes around like this, and like this, and like this. And then what you would see in terms of the planes are this plane from behind, like so, and you would see this plane from the front, like so. So that's sort of how the twist would work. Now, I don't know, is this helpful? I'm not sure, but it is something that I would recommend you play around with these things. And then you can also do things like S's, where you start with an S and then another S like so. So these are both the same, right? You got two S's, and then you connect them like that and like that. Now, what happens here? In this area, what happens, and in this area, what happens? Well, you can just connect them like so, and then this is going to describe this kind of form. So here it is in a very flat, two-dimensional state. It looks like this. You know, if we get a midline here, it's going to come around, and it's going to come around to the back here, comes forward, around, and it comes around like that. So we have this kind of shape. And if I was to shade in this side, for instance, let's say this was colored green, like that, then that would be green as well here, and it would be curving around like that. So that's another thing you can do. And then you could also make this a three-dimensional structure as well by just, you know, adding the corners. So this comes around like this comes around like this, then this bends like so, comes around and comes back here, and that means that this would bend like this and connect like this, and then this would be the same. So it gets complicated, and I wouldn't hold it against you if you found this very tricky, or if you found it easy. Maybe I'm just really slow, but yeah, understand how this turns like this, comes around like so, and then this would be the back side of this would be like that, and the front side would be all this. And if we want to put in the center, it's here, comes around. Now remember, this point here is not going to connect to this center line here, right? Like this line doesn't do this and then like that. No, this line, this center line comes here, and then it goes up here and then connects here, and this back line goes back. See this line, right? Let's look at this. Make it in purple. Comes around like this, then it goes back here, and then it goes up, and it comes around, and it goes around here, around the back of this form, and then where this joins, if you can imagine this in transparent, like a transparent box, then it comes forward, and then it comes down here, again, comes around, and it goes like that. Okay? So that's how you do ribbons, and or even just boxes, but twisting forms. And if you haven't done this, I really, really recommend it, because it will help so much in terms of just seeing this in other ways. Let's say I did a figure, right? And it's like, okay, so the figure is doing something like this, and this is coming around like that, and this is coming around like that. And you've got the rib cage, and this is the center line. The rib cage is doing this, and then the pelvis is coming around like this. It's like, okay, I can translate this information into a figure as well if it was twisting. So it's very, very useful for many different things. Getting that. And let's say this was a female, had some breasts, some, two. Then you could get that in, get the shoulder in here. And this is how all this stuff helps if you understand, you know, perspective, understand forms. This is where it comes in handy when you're trying to draw all these complex things. It really can help quite a bit. So, hope that helped. And the next episode is going to be about squishy things. Stay tuned for that, and hope this one helped, and thanks for watching.